It's not that passing books on is a bad practice, he says. It's just I so wanted a new book, unmarked by another student, and bought with my father's money. My father's dislike of Baba's frugality has made him a very generous man, both materially and in spirit. He became determined to end the traditional rivalry between him and his cousins. When that headmaster's wife fell ill, my father donated blood to help save her. The man was astonished and apologized for having tormented him. When my father tells me stories of his childhood, he always says that though Baba was a difficult man, he gave him the most important gift, the gift of education. He sent my father to the government high school to learn English and receive a modern education, rather than sending him to a madrasa, even though as an imam, people criticized him for this. Baba also gave him a deep love of learning and knowledge, as well as a keen awareness of people's rights, which my father has passed on to me. In my grandfather's Friday addresses, he would talk about the poor and the landowners and how true Islam is against feudalism. He spoke Persian and Arabic and cared deeply for his words. He read the great poems of Saadi, Allama Iqbal, and Rumi to him with such passion and fire, it was as if he was teaching the whole mosque. My father longed to be eloquent with a voice that boomed out with no stammer. He knew my grandfather desperately wanted him to be a doctor, but though he was a very bright student and a gifted poet, he was poor at maths and science and felt he was a disappointment. That's why he decided he would make his father proud by entering the district's annual public speaking competition. Everyone thought he was mad. His teachers and friends tried to dissuade him, and his father was reluctant to write the speech for him. But eventually, Baba gave him a fine speech, which my father practiced and practiced. He committed every word to memory, whilst walking in the hills and reciting it to the skies and birds, as there was no privacy in their home. There was not much to do in the area where they lived, so when the day arrived, there was a huge gathering. Other boys who were known as good speakers gave their speeches. Finally, my father was called up. I stood at the lectern, he told me, hands shaking and knees knocking, so short I could barely see over the top, and so terrified the faces were a blur. My palms were sweating, and my mouth was as dry as paper. He tried desperately not to think about the treacherous consonants lying ahead of him, just waiting to trip him up and stick in his throat. But as he spoke, the words came out fluently across the hall like beautiful butterflies taking flight. His voice did not boom like his father's, but his passion shone through, and as he went on, he gained confidence. At the end of the speech, there were cheers and applause. Best of all, as he went up to collect the cup for first prize, he saw his father clapping and enjoying being patted on the back by those standing around him. It was, he says, the first thing I'd done that made him smile. After that, my father entered every competition in the district. My grandfather wrote the speeches, and he almost always came first, gaining a reputation locally as an impressive speaker. My father had turned his weakness into strength. For the first time, my grandfather started praising him in front of others. He'd boast, Ziadin is Shaheen, which means falcon, because it is a creature that flies high above others. You write your name as Ziadin Shaheen, he told him. For a while, my father did this, but stopped when he realized that although a falcon flies high, it is a cruel bird. Instead, he just called himself Ziadin Yusufzai, our clan name.